Hey everybody, it's Colin Ellis here. Welcome to another episode of Culture and Coffee. How are you? How was your week? What did you do? Were you the best version of yourself? Did you have great attitude? Did you get stuff done? If not, then you might want to go and listen to the first three episodes of this podcast. Gave you all the information on how to do that. So there's really no excuse if you're not doing any of that. Anyway, yeah, how are you? It's Monday the 23rd of August. It's 6:45 a.m. here in the basement. It's beautiful. It's spring has sprung here in Melbourne, even though it's still winter. It's still winter, but it's 23 degrees or 22 degrees here yesterday. It was beautiful. Um, Birds are singing. Birds are getting me up in the morning now. Which you know, spring's on the way when the birds are super loud. It's hard to be angry at birds, though, right? It's hard to be like, can you just shut up? But like in spring, they're so super loud. And we have some magpies who sit on the kind of wires, the electricity poles near us, and they're so loud. But you know, when you're like, oh my God, it's like 5:30 a.m. Can you not? And then you're like, it's just the birds. They're just doing their thing. Yeah. So how are you? How you going? Busy week for me last week actually. Did lots of different things. I think we're still locked down here. There's plenty of variety, and as someone who lives for delivery, kind of those are the focal points of my week. And I think the last 18 months particularly, it's been a different dynamic, one that I've had to settle into, kind of not least the fact that we're locked down and we're in and out of lockdown and all of those things. But as someone who's working for themselves, I kind of had to adapt to virtual delivery. My personality is one is I like a crowd, I like an audience, I like to be in front of a room, that gives me the most amount of energy, and if you've ever seen me on stage, there's a lot of energy to give. And so doing the work virtually is a different dynamic because, well, as you all know, is you haven't got the energy of the people in the room. And so for a presenter like me, I kind of have to almost add 50% so that people get that sense of energy without me having to flap my arms around all of the time and move about. But I've got a good little setup here where you can use a green screen and multiple cameras, and it's very flash. I still think there are people out there, because I do a lot of virtual workshops. I've got another one got to prepare for tomorrow morning, which I'm really looking forward to with a client in New Zealand. And people are like, oh, does it work? I think people are still hanging out for when we get everybody back together. I'm not sure that's going to happen until 2022. And for most people, particularly those who are looking to work on culture, you've really got to do the work now. And the great thing is when you establish all of those kind of principles of working together, when you kind of redefine your vision, you reestablish the behaviors that you need to work together in this kind of hybrid environment, when you do come back together, it's already there. It already makes sense. There's the real sense of belonging, of purpose, of place, and certainly the clients that I've worked with over the last few weeks, they've seen this immediate kind of improvement in the way people work virtually, interact virtually, and when they're able to get back in the office too. I worked with a client in California, found the same, and he said, I can't believe just by spending some time defining what we're about, it brings people closer together. It's like, well, yeah, it does, but it can, it definitely it can work virtually. Anyway, so yes, it can. So I'm looking forward to that this week. Hope you've got some good stuff planned. I mean, most of our virtual interactions, let's face it, are meetings, and I'm going to talk about that today because most meetings suck. And then you have this, I suppose, negative view of what doing virtual workshops can be like based on your meetings, which is insane. That's like going to a bad restaurant and then thinking all restaurants are going to be like that. And then you go to a good one and like, this has completely changed my view of the dining experience. No. Um, Coffee today. Coffee today is from Proud Mary. Now, if you've ever been to Melbourne, Proud Mary is a bit of an institution. It's the one that's in the guidebooks typically. So if you're planning a trip back to Australia, if you're planning a trip to Melbourne or a trip to Australia, I don't know, 2023, 24, I don't know, hedge your bets. Yeah, it's the one. It's in a cool area of Melbourne. It's in just off this street called Smith Street. And Smith Street's a really cool street. So many places to eat and so many places to drink. In a suburb called Collingwood, which is about a 5 or 10 minute tram ride from the actual city. So yeah, Proud Mary is a bit of an institution. It's usually the first coffee place that you go, and they've been around since 2009. And what's great, I mean, there's so many great things about all the coffee producers here. But when I bought my beans, I took a bike ride there on Saturday, and they give you a little card. And it's like someone's Labrador is on the front of the card here. And the dog's name is Trotsky on the front of the card here. You can't see it. It's just great for a podcast, isn't it? Me talking about what I can see. So today's coffee is from Colombia. It's an El Zafiro. The Sapphire. El Zafiro is an absolute gem. I'm going to read this. It sounds good here. Located in the central and western mountain ranges, the temperature remains between 12 to 28 degrees Celsius, ideal for the slow maturation of coffee cherries. So the notes of this one are floral, apricot, yellow peach, and syrupy. Let's give this a go. Oh, that's really good. Really good. Just what I need. All right, let's talk about meetings and why they suck. Because most meetings do suck, let's face it. Now, I just want to make a point before I start here, is because every time I talk about meetings, like literally, because meetings are a big part of corporate culture, right? And so when I'm working with people tailored, because all my programs are tailored to clients, because everyone wants something different. And I'm like, what are your biggest issues? We send too many emails. Well, we've already covered that one. We've got too many meetings. Right, that's all. People always say, oh, that's a problem. I'm like, okay, name the last good one you went to. And, they're casting their mind back 3 years. It's like 3 years ago we made some great decisions. I'm like, dude, like you should have had a better one since then. I'm not against meetings. Oh yeah, that's the point I was going to make. There's always someone who chirps up and says, when I talk about the fact that most meetings are rubbish, there's always someone who goes, actually, my meetings are really good. And I think meetings are a useful construct. It's like, yeah, well, they are. Like, of course they are. Bringing some people together to make some decisions. It's an absolutely necessary function of business. It's just that most meetings don't do that. They really don't. And of course, when we've been having virtual meetings, we've been having whole other thing. Can you see me? Can you see? Can you hear me? You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute. And we're mouthing it because we think they can't hear us, even though they can hear us. We just can't hear. You're on mute. Take yourself off mute. Your bandwidth's slow. Your bandwidth's slow. You're frozen. You're frozen. Do you want to build a snowman? Yeah, that's what meetings have become. And yeah, so we generally so I think meetings can be good. There's a really quote that I like from Oprah Winfrey, who says, "I really, really, really try to avoid meetings. There is a finite amount of time and energy in every day. So what is really important? What do you really want to do?" And actually, I think what some people really want to do is just go to a load of meetings. I think there are some people who seem to think that that's what work is about. And every time you say, oh, we should get together and have a chat, they go, I'll put a meeting in the calendar. And that doesn't necessarily, you don't necessarily have to do that. I'm just going to block out 30 minutes and 60 minutes. I can't believe you're letting Outlook define your life. Right, it's one of the big things, one of the big issues. I get to that. I don't want to spoil the script too soon, but letting the technology rule your life it's just a no-no. You definitely don't want to do that. So yeah, so not all meetings are bad. It's just that when they're not run well, they really drain your energy, they drain your time, they drain your morale. In fact, I think sometimes as well it affects the way that you see managers, because you're thinking, geez, if you can't run a meeting, how the hell are you going to run a business, right? If you can't run something that lasts 30 minutes, you've got no chance. You've got no chance in business. And like There are people, sometimes you're secretly rooting for people as well in the meetings. Have you ever had that? You're like, right, I'm going to chair the meeting. And they start off in like, I so want this to go well for you. I really, really do. I want us to get to the end. I want us to have made the decisions and got to the end of the agenda and close it out. And then when that happens, you're like, this was the best meeting I ever had, just because it followed the agenda. And it's just, I just don't think there's an excuse for really crappy meetings. I really don't. And I mean, I'm sure if I gave you the opportunity and your meetings are crap, and you could give me a list of excuses, but that's what they would be. They would just be excuses. Got back to backs. I can't organise myself. I've got back to backs. Like, come on, just put some extra time in there to give yourself the opportunity to get ready. So certainly in my experience, I think there just isn't the willingness to want to be better when it comes to meetings. And there's I don't know, must be like 3 billion meetings every year around the world, and we must waste billions and billions and billions of productive time just on meetings themselves. There was a report earlier this year. It was a technology report. It's the Dynatrace CIO report, and they found that there was $1.7 million was the average annual cost in lost productivity as a result of IT and the business meeting to discuss solutions to problems. So, kind of they spent more money on meetings than actually fixing the problems themselves. Like I said, meetings are a necessary construct, but we overdo it. We massively, massively overdo it. The average, according to Atlassian, who did a great survey a few years back called You Waste Time at Work. And anything with that kind of title, that's the kind of research that I read. Yeah, you waste time at work. Yes, you do. They estimated the average number of meetings per month is 62. Now, every time I show that statistic in my workshops, people are like, Monday, I have that a week. And they're not joking. Like, some of them are having like 30, 40 meetings a week and then working all night and working at the weekend, then telling you how busy they are, when the reality is they're just crap at managing their time. Um, Moving to virtual didn't really help. Microsoft found that the meeting times, particularly through Teams, because that's where they were analysed it through Microsoft Teams, were 10 minutes longer. So the average meeting time went from 35 minutes to 45 minutes. So that's, they're just a bigger strain on time. So 3 reasons your meetings suck. Now, it's got a negative context, but obviously through this, what I'm going to do is give you some insights into things that you can do to change your meetings. I just want to tell you this, right? Is I was known when I was a permanent employee, for the best part of 30 years. Certainly when I was a senior manager, I was kind of known for just doing random things, like random good things. I mentioned this before, random good things. And one of them was I just didn't do standard meetings. Like, I would look at how other people did their meetings and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I had a period where I brought a packet of biscuits, chocolate biscuits for every meeting. Seriously, everybody was on time for those meetings. So I just didn't do. So all of these things that I'm going to talk to you about, I've done. So you can do them too. All right. So I've done all of these things. I'm working with people who are doing these things. Actually, at the end of the culture workshops that I run, when I go back and say, kind of what stuck fastest, because all the stuff, if people are dedicated to it, it really does work and stick. And the things that stick are work I do on personality and communication, because we're not taught how to communicate. And then the next thing is meetings, because I just get to change to tweak just a few things here and there. And it just gives you more productive time in your day, and you get better at doing them. So 3 reasons your meeting sucks. The first is structure, right? So it's actually having a structure for meetings. And in fact, one of the things we used to say is you can't have a meeting unless there is a structure. So, you can't just send me a catch up, Mike, Colin, catch up. If there's nothing in the invite, I'm just declining it. There's no way. For me, that's meeting spam. If you're just sending me a catch up and there's nothing in the invite, there's no context, you're not telling me why, you're not kind of saying if there's anything that I need to read or prepare, I'm just going to decline it. Listen, I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to be an idiot about it, but I'm not going to send you a big long reply. What I'm going to do is set the expectation that if you're lazy about your meeting request, I'm just going to decline it. And now, of course, if the person wasn't in my team and sent me the request, and I would just go back and say, thanks for this, Mike. Unfortunately, this meeting isn't a priority for me at this time. You've got to make them work for my time. If you want my attention, you've got to work for it. And I'm not saying I'm special. I'm just saying I've done a lot of work to plan my day, to plan my time. I fully understand what my priorities are. Just going to lazily throw in half an hour there. Not having that. Just not having that. So context. So why do we need this meeting? Why do we need it now? What work needs to be done? Like if it's a decision making meeting, and most meetings generally involve a decision, and I need to read something, then that needs to be in the invite, or you need to send me an email with it, and the title needs to be kind of meeting preparation so that I read it. But it should be in the invite, because many people still have this thing where they'll be like, right, we're here to make a decision. And then they give you a pack of information at the meeting. And then they talk you through it. And then they wonder why the meeting we've got a 4-hour meeting. Like, as soon as you see 4-hour meeting, it just drains the life out of you. Like, oh, this is going to be awful. Because you're going to discuss every single paper. So we had a rule of a minimum of 3 business days. So if you want us to read a paper, a minimum of 3 business days, not 3 days. You can't send it to me on a Saturday morning to talk through on a Friday, on a Monday. For a Monday meeting, you've got to send it to me on Wednesday. So I'm making the time to read it. So I'm coming fully prepared. We've got to understand the outcome. So what are we looking to get from the meeting itself? Sorry, just took a quick sip of my Zafiro. Actually placing the coffee cup back on Trotsky's face. Sorry about that, Trotsky, if you're listening. Trotsky's a Labrador. Why would he listen? Trotsky's a Labrador in the middle of Colombia. Why would they be listening to this podcast? Anyway, so outcomes. What are we looking to get from the meeting so that we know what we're working towards? Right. So if we're all attendees in a meeting, we want to know, well, what's the end point of the meeting? What are we looking to get to? Is it a decision? Is it an agreement? Is it for information? Let us know. Let us know so we know what we're working towards. I also want to know, contextually, who else is at the meeting. And you've got to give thought to it. You can't just kind of cast a net and just invite every Tom, Dick and Harriet. You've got to give some real thought to who you actually need to be at the meeting. I don't need 3 people from finance. I used to say that. I was like, I just need 1. It's like, oh, well, he does this and she does that. I'm like, cool. You come for the first 10 minutes and then she comes from the second 10 minutes. Because I don't need to waste her time for the whole meeting when I only need you for 10 minutes. So so structure, it needs that structure. I think, you've got to have that agenda with timing. If it's a 20-minute meeting, you don't need timing. Kind of use your common sense. If only it was still around, common sense. I should do an online common sense program. That would be fun. I'd just take the mickey for half an hour about stuff that you really should be doing. And use common sense. I think for an hour, though, you should time it. If anything, it helps you with the discipline, which is the second reason your meetings don't work, is you lack discipline. So you don't have timing, so you don't know what you should be covering and when. Now, if you're a disciplined person, you don't necessarily need the timings because you can get through what you need to get through. But you need to make sure you do the most important things first, just in case you run out of time, because nothing says I lack discipline in the way I run my meetings by organising a follow-up meeting. Let's have a follow-up meeting because I was so bad at running this meeting that we need another meeting, and I'll make it 30 minutes again and 60 minutes again, but we'll make the same mistakes as we did last time. Nothing says I can't run a meeting like organising a follow-up meeting. So, do the most important things first, so that you're doing those. If you're having an hour meeting, don't spend half an hour going through the action register. And that's it. That's another thing, is that if you've got an action register, you've got to make sure people have had the discipline to do the thing. Don't let them off lightly. Just carry that. No, Ben, why didn't you do your actions? I've been really busy. Oh God. So yeah, do the most important thing. Don't wait for people to arrive. Now, I was used to start my meetings at 5 past the hour or 10 past the hour or 25 to the hour. I never started them on the hour or on the half hour. Because partly to be different, partly out of respect. I wanted to give people time to get to the meeting. But don't wait for everyone. We'll just wait for Colin to arrive, then we'll get started. Have we got everybody? It's everybody. You said you would start at 9:05, so just start at 9:05. And the other thing with discipline is don't allow too much conversation on the tiny details. And that's a real skill of a meeting facilitator is kind of make sure everyone stays on topic. You can't zone out when people start talking. And if they veer away, just bring them back and say, Pete, can we just go back to what we were talking about, please? I really want to make sure we have the conversation on this. So structure, discipline. So make sure that we understand the context for it. Make sure that we actually work through methodically the things that we need to get through, and you do things in line with the agenda. And then the last thing, which for me is often the biggest issue, the third thing is behavior. So people don't arrive on time, and that's okay. Apparently that's okay, and they can give you any excuse, and that's okay, and we just buy it. No, I'm not having that. I actually had a meeting with a client last week, and he was late. One of the guys was late. It was 6 of us, and one of the guys was late, and he waited for a pause in the conversation, and he just said, Colin, team, I just want to apologize for being late. I had a meeting that went on. I had to make some notes, but there's really no excuse for me being late to this meeting. Right? Perfect. But the thing not to say there is, it's okay. So I didn't say it was okay. I just said, thanks. I won't use his name. Thanks, mate. Thanks for apologising. But I think that's the thing to do. And if someone's serially late, then you need to have a word. It's completely disrespectful to arrive late to a meeting. Completely if everyone else is on time, it's disrespectful. It's disrespectful to talk over the top of someone else. Men, you're especially guilty of this. Especially. I mean, there are some serial offenders, but men like to take charge and take control, particularly if a woman's talking. So stop doing that. Really check your behaviour. Are you behaving as you should? Are you waiting for people? And I know it can be super awkward virtually, so have some kind of cue, some kind of principle that you follow, that when someone's finished talking, there's a sign. Simple things like that really, really help. Don't allow anybody to dominate the meeting. Don't allow someone to deliver a monologue for like 45 minutes. There's some people who do that. And another thing, and another thing, and another thing. It's not disrespectful. It's not rude to say, Jez, we'll leave it there, mate. Jez, okay, Jez, sorry to interrupt, mate. Yep, thank you. We're going to move on. All right, Jenny, who's next? And it's really like being a traffic cop, managing people's behaviour. I also think it's poor behaviour on part of the facilitator if you don't involve all of the participants. So make sure that you're bringing people into the conversation. Make sure you're asking for different people's perspectives. You're looking, particularly in meetings, you're looking for that diversity of thought in order to get the best outcomes. So if you've taken the time to invite people, make sure that everyone's given the opportunity to have a say. And I think the final thing on behaviour, and particularly if you're still doing virtual meetings and as you move into a more hybrid environment, is make sure that you're kind of looking out for some of the language that could alienate people. Oh, but if you were in the office, it would be different. Stuff like that. That's a way to really undermine psychological safety. And yes, what that means is people are going to have to think before they speak, right? And so you might have to have a conversation with some people, and that's okay. Because ultimately what you want is for people to understand that the time we have together is precious. And so what we really do need to do is make the best of it. So our meetings need good structure, they need good discipline, and they need people to behave in the right way such that you can get what you need, so you can get the outcomes that you're looking for. Ultimately, I think, you need fewer, better structured meetings, which lead to not only lead to better decisions, but also free up time for more productive work, right? And who doesn't want that? So, yes, your meetings suck, but they don't need to. Anyway, that's another Culture and Coffee. Thanks for joining us. Culture Fix, my book Culture Fix is now available for an audiobook. Now, as I talk a lot about meetings, I give you a lot more statistics. So if you're interested in audiobooks, you can get Culture Fix now. You can get Culture Hacks as an audiobook as well. And the Conscious Project Leader, I think they did that one as a project book, as an audiobook. So yes, it's if you go onto Amazon, you can get that. And don't forget, if you've got any requests, if you'd like me to cover any topics, you can drop me a note at cde@culturefix.xyz. Have a great day.